I think that race has kind of surprised some people just because of who's lining up with who and the fact that Yarborough kind of came out of nowhere and has done very well in that race.
Yeah, he's an energetic candidate. I met him at an event in Denton County a few weeks back. One of my favorite groups to speak to in the state is the Denton County Republican Women. And when you go to that event, it's one of those, Chad, you've seen these things where it's one of those events where the first 5 to 10 minutes is just people who are running for office standing up and saying who they are. Every candidate has to be there if they're running in that area. Both Brent Hagenbu and Jace Yarborough were both there, and they had to listen to me speak, which is always fun. It's where I got to know Shelley Luther, by the way. She's going to be one of the Republican members of the House after she won the nomination. And it's made it sometimes eye-opening for them. I had one Republican candidate once came up to her. They, didn't know anything about, the inner workings of the Capitol, if you will. They had their opinions, of course, about things. They came up to me after I was speaking there, and they go, Scott, I didn't know any of that. So we were right. I was just trying to let you know.
Yeah.
But I did meet Jace and Brent there. And, yeah, I think you're right. These guys are seeing interesting support from different people, right? I think that Yarborough is a young guy. He's very energetic. He's going around. He's doing all the right things if you're trying to run in one of these races. He's going to all the events. I always say, especially in runoffs, the main thing you have to do is let people know when the runoff is.
Yes.
Right? You're not going to do a lot of persuasion. You're not going to get, after you've already had the campaign leading up to Super Tuesday, and you've kind of let voters know who you are, let them know where you are on different issues. After that's over with, the only thing that's left is turning your people out. There's not a lot of persuasion. There's not a lot of, making arguments. I thought it was interesting that Jace Yarborough, as he was going around and just working in the room there at that Denton County Republican Women thing, he was handing out his push card. The candidates always have their push cards with their face on it and their information about, where they are on issues and stuff. But he was, for each person he gave a push card to, Chad, he was writing his name and his personal cell phone number on it, and he was writing down the date of the election, and then he was crossing that out and then writing down the date that early voting starts.
Wow.
And I think that's pretty smart. He was saying, look, don't even bother with that. That's going to be the day after a holiday. Nobody's going to be around to vote. People are either going to be, on the slopes somewhere in Colorado, or they're going to be, they've got a pina colada on the beach. Don't worry about that. You need to vote during early voting is what he was trying to stress to people. I think it's very smart. Brent Hagenbu, the strength that he brings to the race is that he's got these huge endorsements. He's got the endorsement of Governor Abbott, former Governor Perry, Lieutenant Governor Patrick, and of course the gold standard in the Republican primary, as we saw earlier this year, he has the endorsement of former President Donald Trump, and also, Chad, the business that Hagenbu is in, where he made his money, is in transport, and so he's got a fleet of 18-wheelers, and he had, all over the district. He has some 18-wheelers. Well, on the back of the trailer, it says, have you seen this? It says, the back of the trailer, it says, Trump and Hagenbu, that's your ticket. And those were driving around all over the district. So he's getting that message out about who's supporting him. And a very interesting race. I think that in a race like that, I almost give it can be an equalizer. If somebody has all these big endorsements and they've got a lot of money, the way that the race drags out, if a candidate is willing to work it like Yarborough is doing, being in every room where there's a gathering of Republicans like Yarborough is doing, just being very energetic, doing the block walking, being at events and all that sort of stuff, at some point it gives the edge to the person who's willing to do all that stuff. And the comparison I would make is going all the way back to 2012 when then the former Solicitor General of Texas, Ted Cruz, was running in a runoff against former Lieutenant Governor David Dewhurst, who, of course, had more of the establishment with him. He had those people who, he would be the same crowd. The people who would have been back then going for Dewhurst would be kind of a version of the people who are going for Hagenbu now. But Cruz was that guy. You remember, he was just the one going to every event, talking to everybody, and anywhere that 3 Republicans were having coffee, he was going to show up and talk to them, right? And so as a race like that drags on, the guy with more energy and the person who's willing to put in all that work, it eventually accrues to their benefit and maybe even gives them the edge. So I'm not saying that Yarbrough is for sure going to win, but he's certainly doing the work to get there.
So, something else, just kind of an interesting little deal here is that when Cruz was running, I mean, he was a virtual unknown, and he was on my radio at the time. I was doing 8:30 to 11 in Lubbock, and he was on the radio show, if not every week, just all the time. Anytime I would reach out to him, he was on. And Dewhurst never wanted to come on the show. And for whatever reason, he wasn't that interested in appearing on the radio show. And Cruz, every time I invited him, he was on. And I will say this, and again, I don't know what's going to happen in the SD30 race. Every time we've reached out to Jace Yarbrough, guess where he's at? He's on the radio show. Right. I'm sure Hagenboo is a nice guy. Haven't heard from him.
Well,
standing invite, by the way, standing invite, but
Brent Hagenboo, the invitation stand.
Yes, we'd love to hear from you.
And look,
I'm nice.
I'll attest. Chad is nice, and I'll also say we just don't always even agree with each other. It's interesting that, and we don't have to, right? If we always agree, one of us is not thinking. But it is interesting that you have, and this is a chatter with a lot of people in Austin, is because Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick has gone in so hard for Hagenboo. You've seen this, right, where he's done several interviews, for example, on our mutual friend Mark Davis's show in Dallas-Fort Worth, which takes that district is included there in Denton County. On the Mark Davis show, Lieutenant Governor Patrick, he sort of had the attitude at first, and I'm just remembering the interviews as we're talking here, Chad. At first, Patrick was on with Mark Davis saying, look, I'm sure all of the other candidates are probably okay. They're probably fine, but Hagenboo is my guy. I've talked to him, and I think he's the one that we should have. And this is pretty close to a direct quote. Patrick said something like this. He said, look, I'm the president of the Senate, and I know who I need. I know what I need, and Hagenboo is the guy. But he wasn't bad-mouthing the other candidates, including Yarbrough. He was just saying that, Hagenboo is the one that I like. He said the other ones are fine. At some point, as we got closer to Super Tuesday, that changed. And Patrick started to say, look, these others are not ready for prime time. They're not the ones. You need to go with Hagenboo, and that's it. Obviously, that didn't work as far as getting Hagenboo over the finish line in the first round of voting. And I did see, it was kind of funny, on social media the other day, there was a video somebody posted from an event, I think in the district, where Patrick was on stage saying, Hagenboo's the guy, we need to have him. And somebody, as Patrick was saying that, someone in the crowd put Jace Yarbrough's info on a sign, just put it right put it in front of the camera, between the camera and Patrick. Yep. And said, actually, no, we need the true conservative, and that's Yarbrough. So
wow, Scott,
we're all watching it. We're all watching it real close here in Austin.
We got to get going. Scott, thank you so much.
Talk to you soon, Chad. Thank you.